Hey everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review, and today's review is in association with Jedi Insider, your #1 news source for everything Star Wars. And today we're taking a look at the new TIE Interceptor vehicle from the Vintage Collection, Hasbro's Vintage Collection. This particular toy is an Amazon.com exclusive, so you can only purchase it online. And because it's part of the Vintage Collection, the packaging for this toy is done in packaging very reminiscent of the old 80s Kenner collection. You have the black background with the silver borders. Because this particular vehicle was originally released during the Return of the Jedi era, we see the Return of the Jedi logo at the top. And then we show the picture of the toy with some of the action figures standing around. A couple Emperor Royal Guards and a couple Stormtroopers, Darth Vader, and a TIE Fighter pilot sitting in the cockpit. Now, none of the figures are included with this vehicle. There are no figures at all that are included with this one. It also tells you that it has removable wings to simulate battle damage. The top of the packaging basically shows off that feature of the removable wings. Basically, you just push the buttons and they pop off just like in the old original Kenner mold. Then on the sides, basically it shows a picture of the cockpit opening, and you can fit a figure inside. And then on the bottom it's just the same picture as we saw on the front of the packaging, which we then see once again on the back. And the only difference really between the front and the back of the packaging is there's some legalese at the bottom along with the StarWars.com logo, and then up at the top next to the Return of the Jedi logo we have the logo for the Vintage Collection. Okay, so let's get this open and take a look at the toy inside. Okay, so here we have the vehicle outside the packaging. Now the wings come detached from the actual ship. So basically all you have to do is you just need to put the wings with the little indent on the top pointing upwards and just slide the wings in. So not a whole lot of assembly required. In fact, this is basically part of the feature of the vehicle with the pop-off wings. So then if you want the wings to pop off, you just hit this button at the top and the wing falls off. It doesn't really fly out too much, it essentially just kind of falls off, and it works for both wings. So then once you get it assembled, you have basically the basic TIE Interceptor complete, very reminiscent of the old toy. There are some differences though. The panels on the wings are sculpted on, as opposed to the old one, original one. It was, I'm pretty sure it was decals. You got some nice detailing on the wings. Then on the back, like we see with many of the more modern TIE fighter type toys, we no longer have like the handle sticking out of the back like we did on the old vintage one. Now it's more movie accurate with the designs on the back. And then another difference between this newer version of the TIE Interceptor and the old vintage one is they've redesigned the top of the cockpit. So instead of having the two doors pop open on the sides, it's just one sculpted door that pulls backwards or pulls up. Now this door kind of pops off pretty easily. It pops right back on, so it's not that big a deal, but it does have a tendency to kind of fall off, at least on mine, when you're opening and closing it. So you just want to be kind of wary of that. Now there's some definite nice detail on the cockpit, or inside the cockpit. We've got some sticker decals, showing the control lights, and then just basically we've got an actual full on like joysticks to control the ship, with a little orange display in the middle, and just some nice detailing there. Now, one thing I will note is with the way the figure sits in, there's like a clip on the seat to hold the figure in, but you'll definitely need to have one of, like if you're going to put a TIE fighter pilot in there, you'll need to have one of the newer pilots that have the articulated knees so that you can bend at the knees. Right now, I only have with me right now one of the older ones that didn't have the articulated knees. So this actual figure will not really sit inside the cockpit because it requires the figure to be able to bend its knees. So we'll just use this stormtrooper here that I have handy to show you how the figure kind of sits inside. And then you gotta, and even like a stormtrooper, because the clips, because it's got these clips in the seat, so you gotta kind of like jiggle it in, but you can still get it in. But as long as the figure has bendable knees, then you should be able to get them to fit inside fairly well. And then you can just pop the cockpit on and close it. But just be wary if for some reason you don't have a newer TIE fighter pilot, if you're still using the older ones that didn't have the articulated knees, then they're not going to fit inside the cockpit for this one. So that's about it. There's really no other features. The electronics, you know, like the old vintage ones used to have the electronic laser light up, which has been removed on these newer versions, including this one. Just another thing I'll note is the cockpit top. Now, you know, explained how it opens differently from the old vintage one, but they also finally put, these used to just be open holes on the older ones, and now they've got some transparent plastic, so you actually have some windows there, which is kind of cool. Now the window on the front of the ship is kind of tinted dark, so you don't see a lot. You do get a little bit of detail. You can see some of the controls and stuff, but you really don't see, you can't really see very well inside of it because it's tinted. So overall, I mean, it's a cool ship. It, you know, but if you've already got this particular mold of the TIE Interceptor, then I don't know if I could really tell you it's worth justifying buying another one just for the vintage packaging, which I mean is essentially what this is for, what it was being released as. You know, this is probably more of a, you know, for a collector who keeps their toys in the packaging than one outside of the packaging, because the real thing that you're paying for here is the vintage packaging. But it's a cool toy, a lot of nice details. Much more movie accurate than the old Kenner one, and it's sleek. Here, just to give you kind of a size comparison, here it is next to the TIE Fighter. It has the bigger panels, and you can see this one still has the old cockpit design. And one other difference from the original that these don't have is in the originals, like you could pull up the seats. That's no longer a feature. So again, that's pretty much it. Like I said, nice detail, but you know, this toy has been released previously, so what you're really paying for here is the vintage packaging. And so if you're basically have been collecting the vintage collection line, then I think this will definitely be one that you'll want to add to your collection. If you're just looking for another TIE Interceptor, you know, these are a little bit more expensive online and because of the vintage packaging. So I don't know, again, if it's worth the extra cost if you're just looking to buy it for the toy, not the packaging. But it is a solid toy overall, and And again, if you have been a vintage collection collector, then I would definitely recommend you picking this one up. So that's my review. I hope you enjoy it. Until next time, I'll check you later.